Call this meeting 2:05 p.m. Welcome everyone. Appreciate your attendance today. Can we have roll call, please? Good if the computer would agree with me. Apologies, JJ.
Actually, no, I was good then, so it's sorry. Marcia Porter Norton,
Yes, present.
Chuck Stevens,
Present.
Jessica Buell, proxy for Kim Baxter,
Present.
Eva Henson,
Present.
Kathleen Sickles,
Here. Present.
Brenna Moreland,
Here.
Mark Garcia,
Here.
Clark Craig,
Present.
and Patrick Vaughn.
Here. Thank you. Next item is identification of any actual or perceived conflicts of interest. We have any actual or perceived conflicts?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to let everybody know that during the tree farm presentation, I'm going to leave because I could be a decision maker. And it hasn't come through as a formal project yet, but I just think for impression purposes and making sure that's all clean. So I'll leave.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I've let the speakers know.
Great.
Thanks.
I'm going to step out as well as being a part of the planning commission
For La Plata County.
for the same reason.
Anyone else? Thank you.
The comp plan amendment, okay, so the comp plan amendment, I'll step out for.
She would also, for the presentation, she would need to step
Yeah.
out.
On the tree farm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So only 6 of us. Okay, that'll work. So the next item is public comment. And just as a reminder for the public, this is not a public hearing, but it's a public comment opportunity. So anyone who wants to get up and speak, we have a maximum of 3 minutes. We appreciate your being here, and we certainly appreciate your commenting. So whomever would like to start. No public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Be happy to say something. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to see so much of the public here. My name is Lori Roberts. I have been coming for 14 months now to these meetings. And part of the reason I do that is because I believe that our affordable housing is a market failure. And I wanted to say today, I'm thinking about how we have a rural electric co-op. We pay our electric bills to, and that's who provides our electric service. That's because providing rural electricity was also a market failure. It was not something that the free market was able to do. There wasn't enough profit motive. And the government had to step in and create the Rural Electric Administration. I feel like this body is a collaboration of governments that has an opportunity to make a difference with affordable housing in the face of that same kind of market failure. I'm concerned, I do want to say thank you very much to the Economic Development Alliance for making the packets available. I'm concerned that stepping down our mission statement, the proposal that you guys will be working on today, is not in alignment with the funding push from Denver. And it's stepping back in terms of the number of activities that the RHA is addressing. But I believe you guys are the ones. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll close the public comment. Thank you. Next item is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any adjustments or changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I would just like to note for the record, there was a previous version that went out that incorrectly said May 13th rather than April 13th. So just to clear up any potential confusion, I believe all official copies have been corrected at this point. But I would just like to state that for the record for any confusion.
Thank you.
Chair, I move we approve the agenda as presented.
We have a second. It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item is the consent agenda. On the consent agenda is the March 2023 board meeting minutes and the February 2023 financial statements. Any questions, comments, changes to either item?
Do appreciate the clarification within the financial statements for charges. The number of numericals, I like that. Thank you. I would move we approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Next is alliance updates. And I told Clark I'm actually checking each one, so I'm trying to go without order this time. So the next item is the Catalyst Fund update. That's Mike French and Sarah.
Happy to give that update. The Catalyst Fund is moving forward. We now have a full committee of 8 folks. We have a working group as well that includes housing leaders in the area. We've created a rubric and measurement for those LOI applications. We have a web page. We had our first round open and now close since our last meeting, and we had 5 applications. The working group is reviewing those applications, and then the committee will review them and approve them as well. So we should know by the beginning of May who is going to receive funding, and we'll be making that announcement at that time. But the applications are representative of the region of Lackawanna. So we're excited to see 5 very viable projects come forward in this first round.
Just part of the process is of the 5 applications. Since this is the first time, that the rubric is pretty solid and the committee felt like the rubric was correct after getting 5 applications, but they noticed that there were some maybe missing data or lack of depth in a certain questions. And so that helps us tighten the rubric up moving forward for round 2. But what that also gave us an opportunity to do is set precedence of a process to cure the applications. So we went back to the 5 applicants and said, these were the questions that we would like a little bit more depth on. And so they have an opportunity to give us back the applications by Monday of this week. So they have 2.5 business days to do so and strengthen that application. They've already done a preliminary score based on the rubric. I think my guess is 2 weeks from now, when the committee meets, they'll look at the preliminary score, then have discussion, and then finalize what the funding mechanism might be. The other discussion was it's not necessarily going to be a binary funding. In other words, if somebody asked for, let's say, $70,000, which was a maximum, that if the committee decided that there were a few things in here that should be funded, but maybe not the entire application, that they can do so. So we're pretty excited. I would echo Sarah's sentiment that we were really happy to see 5 applications, very diverse in terms of geographic representation. So Ignacio, Bayfield, County, and city. So that was a good thing.
And they are all 5 workforce housing projects.
Yeah.
And without disclosing any of the applicants, just for the audience, this is a key project that we're working on, is a catalyst fund to catalyze housing. So people that want to build entities, businesses, coalitions that want to build housing can get startup funds. What are the kinds of things that they asked for? And again, if it gives away applicants, but just did they ask for pre-development costs, and then what does that look like?
It was, every single project was different,
Okay.
which is good because they're all unique. They're all in different phases. Some are a little bit more advanced than others. So depending on where they are in the cycle, you see them asking for different things. But we had everything from a survey to a market study to infrastructure, to buy down, I mean, you name it, right? So it was across the board. And that really gave us a good indication that the needs are pretty vast, and every project was very unique in what they were asking for. So just happy to see that.
Can you tell us what the total financial request across all 5 of them were? Total
Yeah,
ask?
just shy of, I think the total request was about $250,000. Right now, we have soft commits for $600,000 in the Catalyst Fund. So we advertised at the Alliance meeting on Tuesday that we were pretty confident that we would go through at least 2 rounds this year. And if a foundation comes to the table, which we're optimistic about, that we would extend this program well into 2024. Yeah, very excited about that.
And the grants range from 25 to 75,000. Just to kind of reiterate that again. So, and then we also do have a conflict of interest policy within the committee and the working group. So it's a very similar practice as what's happening with the RHA board in recusal when you're associated with projects.
Yeah. And that we're gonna have those kind of conflict of interest scenarios because we're expecting all of these projects to have public-private partnerships and to have some visibility from the public entity. They just need to in order to be far enough along. And so there are in the committee, in the review committee, there's representation of Ignacio, Bayfield, City, County. So it's, we're just going to have to figure out how to manage through that. But we're very confident that the policy that we've created is going to work really well.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else on the Catalyst?
We are expecting to make those announcements in May, and round 2 potentially is June, July.
Any questions? No, let's head on to item number 2, financials. Sarah and JJ.
Oh, the computer.
Okay, sorry. We're just having to log into Zoom for everybody.
Yeah, are there, what do I do?
Technology. Do you want to speak to the financials?
Sorry. So the financial statements this month, nothing should be particularly out of the order in them. These are the basic monthly costs. The one thing that may be unusual is you'll start seeing some of the member government's contributions showing up on there. So we did appreciate at the last meeting, Mayor Craig pointing out a discrepancy there that we have since corrected once now that the last meeting's minutes have been approved. Those will be, there'll be an addendum up on the website to include the corrected ones, not the ones with 2 line items slipped around. Happy to answer any of the questions you guys may have on that.
Any questions for JJ on the financials?
I did notice JJ on the budget. Since I don't have the electronic packet, it's after the second blue tab. I think La Plata County and city's contribution, is you're pointing out it got switched between Bayfield and Ignacio.
Yes.
Right, I think the same thing happened on our annual budget between the city and La Plata. So La Plata County should be 137,250 and the city should be 72.
And that would be on page.
That's page 6. It's just the budget right before the it's the page before the 3rd green tab.
15 of 48.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing that out. We will get to that corrected.
Yeah, that's
Thanks.
a good catch. It's properly reported on the financials, just the budget's different.
Yeah,
And I'll be sure to speak with our accountant too and see like what, if there's something endemic in that, since it's the second time that's come up.
okay.
So I'll see what is going on with that. Thank you.
So with that, do I have a motion to accept the financial statements as presented?
With them then.
I so move.
Do I have a second? Oh, sorry, I didn't hear.
Just second.
Okay,
Second.
sorry. My hearing is still a little bit challenged.
Moved and seconded.
Okay, any discussion? Not all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next item is logo update website. Sarah and JJ.
Yeah, in your packet, you'll see the full logo arrangements. So that is our full suite. So the logo has been accepted and approved already by the board. As far as the website, I checked in with SIPA as to where we are in that project in the pipeline, and we were the fourth project out. So once we get a project manager, things should move pretty quickly. However, until we have a project manager with SIPA, we will not have the development of the website. So keep saying next month, I apologize. But we're hoping that we'll have something for you all by next month.
And to reiterate, this was the final termination of logo.
Yeah, on this, so our primary ones will be those two at the bottom. This is page 16 of 48 on you guys' packet. So those very two bottom ones, one's the mix of both the green and the blue. Those are our news. We're trying to stick as much as possible to the bottom left on that. However, for situations where people may not know what RHA stands for, we did have a designer throw in that design as well. And the other ones are just varietals for when situations arise when maybe just a monochromatic theme is more appropriate, or just a black or a white theme. So those are all available for use. I will make these available to all the directors or anyone else who needs them as well. We're working on putting together things like email signatures and stuff like that.
I was just, Elizabeth's waiting to get it. Oh, thank you.
Anything else on the logo or website? Any questions? Okay, next item, RHA board member terms, JJ.
So this came out of, as many of the board of directors will remember, we had a situation where we had to get a bunch of e-signatures from you all in a very short amount of time. And one of the line items on the document we needed signed was when your guys' term expired. And that made me and Sarah realize, oh, wait, we don't actually know when everyone's term expired. So I did include in the next page as well, the bylaws specifically, the part of the bylaws specifically governing terms. I can abridge it for you, with the exception of the member at large, Chair Vaughn. It is up to the member governments to set the terms and their representatives. Actually, it doesn't even need to necessarily be an elected official or employee of the respective government. So if you guys would be so kind, I'm just going to pass this around. I've highlighted the information I don't know, and I'm sure that there will be stuff that you guys probably don't know as well. But I would just like to bring you back to the director's attention. It's entirely possible that some of your governments maybe haven't set that specific policy in place and need to. So we just wanted to make you guys aware of this and like give you guys the opportunity to get back to us with the terms, with the start dates and the expiration dates as well.
And I went over the corrections for mine with JJ, since I'm not a town manager. I don't know what town I'd be a manager of.
Yeah, that's
And my term started in May of 2022, so by the bylaws, I believe it expires May of 2025. And I asked them also to change the logo in the upper right-hand corner to match the new logo, just so we're consistent. So I've already covered that with him prior to.
And I will say that the bylaws are very open-ended as to the requirements. Essentially, it asks that the member governments try to stagger it, so we're not having a complete new board turnover every so often. But outside of that, it is fairly open-ended.
I think the key there, though, is communicating with each entity communicating with everybody else when their terms are, just so we don't end up in that.
Yeah, absolutely, which is why the sheet has been corrected. So as I get, like the grant matrix, as I get updates to this, I'll pass that out to the board. So that you guys can take that back to your governments as changes need to be made.
Thank you. Sure. Any other questions or comments on the terms? None. Okay. UH housing toolkit. Sarah.
Yeah, so I think this is gonna kind of go hand in hand with item 6, so I may kind of go back and forth between the two. The DOH housing toolkit is specific to the affordable housing. They've come out with a toolkit that's got a lot of webinars and a lot of it's gonna have a whole guidebook as well. And so we have that as a resource, and as well as, you know, CHAPA has a affordable housing toolkit as well. And kind of in that vein, I will be attending the Colorado Mountain Housing Coalition meeting, which will be next week. And we are also pursuing an RHA membership as well for our members, so that all of our directors can go to that as well, of course. And Lisa with Homes Fund is here. She's the chair of that coalition as well. So we're excited to have this so close to home to be able to attend. And then just kind of also updating in that same vein. So the technical assistance. So there was a DOH DOLA technical assistance grant that we applied for last month. We have already interviewed with them, and we are in the running for that technical assistance grant, which is valued at $100,000, that would provide staff and resources to us, RHA clients, specifically in affordable workforce housing. It could include things like housing assessment even, which I think would be really valuable for our county. So those are the kinds of things that, but through that interview process, and we'll find out either this week or next week if we receive it. But through that process, they also had us apply for another technical assistance grant that would bring housing experts to this county for a half-day workshop housing forum. And at the same time, the city of Durango had also been pursuing that as well. So Eva and I have been collaborating on a potential 2-day housing forum here in Durango. So some of the things that they would kind of talk about, just to give you a little taste of it, would be land use issues and policy planning, community land trust background, HUD, shared equity models. So it can get really deeply technical, or it could be things like affordable housing 101, modular sections, kind of level setting, groundwork and positioning, housing needs assessments, understanding demographics, limited resources, funding and finance and development. So what we're kind of tentatively thinking is that one day would be a deeper dive into more of the technical issues around workforce housing, really good for planning departments and housing leaders. And then the second one would be a little more high level, kind of affordable housing 101, how to fundraise and opportunities around that, those kinds of things. Additionally, I found out that CHAPA is going to be having a Prop 123 workshop July 13th. So this would take place in hopefully July. If we are not able to find dates that the directors, a majority of directors can attend in July, we can look at August. But it may behoove us to have it in the same week as CHAPA's Prop 123 workshop if we can pull it off. So DOH would like for us to have ours on either a Tuesday, Wednesday. Tuesday, Wednesday is the preference in July, or a Wednesday, Thursday for 2 days. So I can send out a doodle poll. Gosh, I'm like, I think I can send out a doodle poll to the directors if that would make it easier. We can talk about the potential of that week of July 13th, July 11th and 12th, potentially.
Is there a preference to discuss it now or just have a doodle poll, and then you look at your respective calendars and decide at that point.
I might comment. Yes, this has been an idea that I have been spearheading, leading, talking to. So glad I have Sarah to collaborate with on this particular effort. We put together one of these in Summit County. Over 200 folks attended. It's a local government, sort of local folks attending. So you're talking our local banks, our financing structures, our developers, some of we actually call it the Housing Summit, and it's for Summit County, so it's kind of unique in that sense. But it was a full-on workshop. This wasn't having speakers come and empower you and talk about something like leadership. This was like whiteboard collaboration into the thick of things to understand the nuances, what things are working well, and work through the things that aren't working well and overcome those with opportunities and solutions versus just saying this is a challenge, we just can't figure this out. So it actually gets everybody in the same room. What we kind of did on day 2 is different groups that got together presented to each of the other groups. And then we actually put together a report from that summit. And that kind of helped lead to other plans, policy work, regulations, things like that, to really elevate the efforts that are happening. So really fortunate that Sarah and I have been talking about this. The only feedback I would say is Prop 123 is its own animal right now. And I would be hesitant to do it the same week because the people that would be attending this particular forum is not the state. And I would rather have it off that week because I would want people to be focused, concentrated, and available and committed to the effort in the forum. And I think Prop 123 is just going to derail me personally. I think I would feel I wouldn't be that 100% in the forum because I would be so focused and worried about Prop 123. So just some feedback.
And just to add as well, one thing I forgot to mention, we did speak at the DAR Government Council meeting this last week. And then we will be presenting to them next week as well, the full membership. DAR is very supportive. Joan's here in the room, actually. DAR is very supportive of the efforts of RHA and the Alliance. They are also will work with us collaboratively on this educational forum as well. So that's just nice to have another community partner. We also want some of their membership to be able to attend as well, and have it open to all housing industry folks, developers, contractors, things like that too. And they will bring in housing experts from around the state for this housing forum or housing summit. We haven't come up.
We haven't just
It's in its infancy. So they will be bringing that in, and this technical assistance grant is valued at $20,000. So
Sure. So the 13th, we have an RHA meeting. So it's already on the calendar. We could just use that time and do Wednesday, Thursday.
I would agree. Your big sense. Any other thoughts?
So the 13th is the CHAPA Prop 123.
Oh, it is.
So I think that's where we're, not that week, we don't.
Not that week. Never mind. I thought Chapel was portable. It could move to a different date.
I would say a doodle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
Sounds like
I
the
agree.
calendaring and scheduling
best option for everybody
vacations
with
and
their respective
school.
calendars and try to set those priorities.
Okay, we'll send out a doodle calendar poll by tomorrow then, everybody.
And then I didn't get the chapel workshop.
I just found that out this
Maybe
week.
it's in my head, but could you share that with the group?
Sure. And we may want to yield that meeting time for people to be able to attend that workshop. So.
Sarah, I assume public can come and then obviously nonprofits can come to this as well.
Yes,
Great.
they
Okay.
said there will be no limitation on how many people we want to bring.
You just have to find the space.
We have to find the space, yeah.
Because we envision some breakout sessions, and so we're gonna need, I don't know, Fort Lewis College would be open to some ideas, but I envision a larger environment setting, parking and accommodations to be able to break out into different groups and things too.
So have we covered technical assistance grant application as well? Okay. So on to the next item, presentation and engagement with non-RHA entities, Tree Farm Village. You're up. I would like to remind you that we have about 15 minutes in the schedule. I know that's rather compressed for you guys. I apologize, but we do have a lot of things on the agenda. But so take your best shot and let's hear what you guys say.
Brendan Sindell is on virtually.
Nancy, could you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Nancy Dosdall. I work with SEH and representing Tree Farm Village, which includes Brendan Sindell and Glenn Mosell. They're both here. We were hoping Brendan was going to go through the presentation, but he's having trouble hearing. So we're switching our presentation a little bit. Glenn, do you want to just tell them who you are?
I'm Glenn Mosell, new kid in town. I moved from Idaho to Durango just this past year. I met Frank C. a year ago, and I think you're all familiar with this property, 80 acres, just a mile east of Three Springs. I introduced the concept of a new manufactured home land lease community for the site. Frank embraced that concept and got plenty of community support. I reached out to Mark Coleman and Brendan Sindell. They have the expertise and horsepower to bring this project to market. Mine, they own 40+ communities across the country. And we're very excited about it.
Brendan, do you want to try?
Can you hear me? I'm trying. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yeah,
Barely.
maybe not.
Barely.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Brendan? Texting us, we'll try. But Brendan's group and his partner do manufactured home communities throughout the nation. We're excited to bring to you a free market, so not solution, but piece of the puzzle. They're not asking for any public support at all. The proposal here would be for 310 or so manufactured home community. So it'll be a land lease community. It's a part of the housing picture right now that has not been well served by the public sector, or I mean by the private sector. And I think it's getting a bad reputation in that the only mobile home parks we have are approximately 50+ years old. Lifetime of mobile homes. So what you're seeing is pretty run down. Except for some exciting new options where owners purchased the view park. But we're looking at solutions. So they have brought, with Glenn's help and Frank Sittons, who still owns the property, a new solution to free market. I want to keep saying that. We're not asking for public, they're not asking for financial support, but we have had our first public meeting. There are some neighbors, we have some NIMBYs there that do not want to see a manufactured home community in their backyard. So we're hoping to present to as many groups that we think are advocates for the more affordable end of housing in the community and housing in general in the community, and see if we can develop some support. We don't have public meetings scheduled yet. We're desperately begging the county to get that scheduled, but they're in a difficult situation with their staff. I think the presentation, I'm not even going to go over the fact that housing's a problem in La Plata County. You all know that. So if we move on, just wanted to show some examples. These are not renderings of that the community at Tree Farm, but actual renderings from similar communities that are managed by these folks in other parts of the country. So they are proposing play fields, a clubhouse, swimming pool, all the amenities that you might want in a rental community, walking paths, etc. It's in a location that is close to the center of population for the entire county, and a lot of our workforce. It's also doesn't compete directly with any other private developments like this, rates, and that it's a lease community. You would own your own manufactured home and lease the property. Okay, I can't read that. So, but the highlights, I think I went over that. They are proposing hiking trails, etc. They're also self-proposing rent control. So because we do know that the first concern from communities, and we've spoken with Eva early on in the process, the first concern with these land lease communities are that people get their units in there and the rent keeps going higher and higher to the point where they're in a difficult situation to afford. So this would be, we believe, the only community in the state that would have self-imposed rent control. They would have also strict rules and regulations for home leasing, any subleasing, forced noise, parking, etc., vehicle storage. There would be on-site professional management and staff. Watching the time, I'm respecting your time. But we also want to talk a little bit about why manufactured homes. Again, I think to some extent they get a bad reputation, and a lot of it's based on the fact that we're comparing a current community to ones that were developed 50 years ago. And the manufactured homes that are being constructed now and communities that are being built now have very different characteristics. In this case, Brendan has done some studies here, and manufactured homes do appreciate it. And so it's a fallacy that they depreciate. So if you purchased a manufactured home in this community, it's likely that you would see an increase in value and some equity earning opportunity with your unit. And surprisingly enough, that same study that's quoted here from the US Census shows that the biggest difference in price between a manufactured and a site-built home is the largest in California, Massachusetts, and Colorado. So in this case, the cost of a manufactured home versus a site-built home is high compared to other states. There. Yeah, we wanted to show you some examples of current manufactured homes, what they look like today. It's a different world from what we see in existing mobile home parks in our area. We also did some looking at costs at Tree Farm. Well, this is all projected, but it's at Tree Farm Village versus, say, renting in Durango. And if you look down at the bottom line there, we've got the average Tree Farm home sale price. So a brand new manufactured home, nice one, 180,000. We're looking at a 10% down payment. I'm not going to go through all of this, but when you total it up, Tree Farm monthly cost would be a little over 2,000. So we're not meeting housing, we're not meeting affordability requirements for the lowest income. This isn't by any definition low income housing. Because we're not asking for funding, and not sure whether it meets any of the definitions for affordable housing, but by most people's standards, it's going to be workforce housing. It's gonna be housing that is more affordable than market rate housing. So this comparison shows you with little over 2,000 a month in your monthly cost. And they compared that to the current rental, free market rentals in Durango. So 2-bedroom apartments are going for just under what you would pay, earning some equity on your unit. If you go with a 3-bedroom, renting is higher than buying in Tree Farm. And then renting a 3-bedroom house, of course, is crazy mistakes. He then ran the same comparison against a site-built house. And as you can imagine, costs are much lower for a manufactured home in the community as opposed to building a site-built house. 9 minutes. We provided for you some of the AMI figures and where renting or purchasing in Tree Farm Village and then renting the land would run, and it does appear that it will fall within the 80 to 120% of AMI. But again, we just wanted to show that for comparison. Free market project, not subsidized. And then that was the information on Brendan and Mark and their experience doing these manufactured home communities throughout the nation. They think how many they've got, but they've been doing them. We can show examples, and I think you saw a few of those. And if you did we have the other? No, I sent a couple to show you the layout and where they are, but it's not that important. What is important is that, you know, we have a very complicated approval process with this project. We have to amend 3 different comprehensive plans. The city's comprehensive plan we're amending, we're actually coming down in density a little bit. We won't get pushback on that, but then we have to amend 2 different county plans to allow us to bring central water from the city of Durango out to the site. Because they're proposing city water from Durango, they will then be subject to city standards. So again, it's going to be a very high quality park built to meet actual city and county standards. We've got public meetings and approvals required by both the city and county because there you go, thank you. Kind of sideways. So north is to your left on there.
Do you want me to turn it?
No, that's okay. So that's 160 on the right side there. The other, we're off of County Road 230. There you go. That's the way I'm used to seeing it. So it'll involve constructing an extension of County Road 233 for those of you that are familiar with the area. And then laying out the units there. The fields and the clubhouse are kind of in the middle, in the L shape. And let's see, I distracted myself. So that's the concept. We're pretty excited that it can come to us without public cost, really, and with some significant public advantages as far as extending city water lines out where they haven't been before, where we think it might open up other opportunities for development. It fits in a little niche that isn't being filled right now. And I guess we're just really asking for your support as far as maybe letters of support coming to the meetings when we get there. We do have neighbors up to on the northern part of the site who don't want any development for the most part, but certainly have some of the, we've heard some of the present prejudices about home. Feel like this isn't that,
that it's a manufactured housing community that will be a great missing piece of our housing puzzle. Did I miss anything?
We'll most likely be receiving homes from the Clayton factory in Albuquerque. And if you've ever seen the actual factory, it's quite impressive, and it's an open invitation. If anyone would like a tour, we can arrange that. But high quality homes, 2x6 year construction, 9-foot ceilings, high quality countertops and drywall. So we really are different than most manufactured homes in the community currently. We've presented it to a few. Brandon Gancini, CEO of the hospital, is very excited about this project, and that it will be well embraced by many employees at the hospital. We're just initiating our patent process, and we'd like to ask for your support on that.
Question. You get it just about right, so let's open up for some questions.
One of my questions is, I've seen some manufactured home subdivisions in cities and whatnot that are absolutely beautiful. But I think one of the differences between the ones we typically see here and the ones that I've seen in the past is upkeep and, roads and that sort of thing. So is it the plan to keep these gravel roads? Are they going to be paved? What is there going to be sidewalks?
There'll be paved streets, and it's not a subdivision, it is a land lease, so it's all under one. And the monthly lot rent is like $700. And that includes the space rent, the community amenities, clubhouse, pool, walking paths, snow removal. They will be private streets taken care of by the community. With one ownership, you have much more control over rules and regs.
And is there any kind of plan to keep like rent controls in there? Because that's the thing, you get in there, it's affordable, and you have working families that are young, and all of a sudden the rents go up year after year after year. What kind of rent controls do you have?
So we are suggesting that we will have self-imposed rent control going in, and that CPI or 7% maximum rent increase, possible pass-throughs.
Which I understand.
But no minimum rent increase, and it's really subject to market.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, my question about wastewater treatment will be on site.
No, South Durango station.
What was that, Katie? I'm sorry.
Wastewater treatment.
That's South Durango.
That's planned. So Central Water and Sewer, 8 rows.
And again, we're bringing water from the Three Springs entrance about a mile to the site, and not asking for any sense of error. And we are in the city's water service area, so I think there's no.
For not to comment, just because we're in the current process with staff reviewing it. And we've had conversations that have been, I think, dialogue and open dialogue. We certainly have shared comments to them.
Sure. I do have a couple of questions or comments. If you can describe the rent control, I would expect that would be part and parcel of the entitlement approvals, and as part of that, be required by the county.
I was careful, Pat, to say we're not proposing any. We'll see what happens.
Okay. My suggestion is that you do propose it. I mean, we're talking about workforce housing here. I think in my mind, you are hitting a target audience that's necessary and critical. I think in your rules, there's some important pieces that are important to me. As I said, I think I like the product. In fact, I have 3 siblings that live in a product like this in Florida, and they are people of needs. it's very well kept, and it's very nice community, but my siblings aren't people that are of means, so they can afford it, is my point. I think the rules are important about having an owner occupant, not subleasing. I think having a requirement that it has to be, somebody has to be a worker in La Plata County is important. And I think it has to be a resident that, you know, if we have snowbirds that want to live here for 6 months of the year and live in Arizona 6 months of the year, then we have a problem with unoccupied unit. And I know I'm adding layers here, so excuse me for doing that. But this is a group about affordable and workforce housing. And so that's our mission, right? And so I think rules, bracketing, prevention of those units being vacant or being sublet or being for somebody from out of town are very, very important to address workforce housing. Your $700 is pretty reasonable. I have numbers from RV parks, for example. Skyview Fairgrounds is $625 a month. That includes utilities. This is RV, not mobile home. Oasis is $699. Durango RV Park is $950. Alpenrose is $750. So my point is to the larger group, your numbers are not unreasonable from what I can tell. I understand the fact that cost of living goes up, taxes go up, and you recover your costs there. So I personally am in favor of this. I would like to remind everybody, and this is my bias coming through, my alternate bias coming through. This is Southern Ute Indian tribe paid a huge amount for infrastructure to build Three Springs. They extended water from Farmington Hill, put a booster station in, put a 4 million gallon water storage tank that's more than enough to fulfill full build out of Three Springs. PRV valves down and an extension across the highway. So back in 20 years ago, they spent probably in excess of $10 million just on our infrastructure alone. If there's a way on connection with Durango to where the tribe can get some recoupment from hookups, I would be an advocate of that. I'm not suggesting that you guys pay more. I'm just suggesting that there should be a mechanism to reimburse them for the upfront costs that they put in 20 years ago. So that's just my personal thing. So, and with that, I'll shut up.
Can I add to what you were saying about the owner occupied? I could even be on board if it's not the entire park is owner occupied, but a very large percentage. Because I think that's fair, you know. especially-
Our intent is actually 100%. We may have some rent to own programs as well.
Right, that's what I'm kind of.
And regarding workforce housing, there's also a huge need for senior housing area that I feel that we would address that issue as well. And we're not asking for subsidized housing. We're not really referring to as low income, but rather attainable, sustainable. Good value.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time and presentation. And thanks for everybody's questions. And,
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
okay.
Okay, go get it.
Oh, okay. Good. Sorry for getting out of the soapbox there for a little bit. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears through the annexation of Three Springs 20 years ago. Welcome back. Next item H, decision items, resolution 2023-02 mission statement. as we talked about, I think in the last meeting, Sarah ran into a couple of different mission statements. And it's in your packet, the proposed one, that candidly she and I worked on, as a combination or trying to address our mission, relative to the two that were prior. And I'll just jump in and say, I suggested that we focus on the first mission statement, and work off of that. Now, that prior one was to facilitate, coordinate, initiate, and support the development of appropriate, affordable housing for the critical workforce essential to long-term economic sustainability and resiliency of Plata County and its communities. The other mission statement that we found was the RHA's mission is cultivating and sustaining communities through innovative partnerships and entrepreneurial housing programs. My personal opinion is that second one is just word salad. I don't like word salad personally. I like something that's direct. However, what I didn't see in that first one was a focus on preservation and rehabilitation. It's purely about development. And I think our mission has to include preservation and rehabilitation of the existing product. That's really the most bang for the buck if you really look at it. The second item was I took out coordinate and the words coordinate and initiate and left in facilitate and support. Again, this is fundamental to what is the RHA going to be on a go-forward basis. We're going to build a product. We're not set up to build. We don't have the infrastructure or the money to do that. But we do have other very capable private entities that can do that. Probably much more efficiently and cost effectively than we can, in my personal opinion. So with that, I'll open it up and let people comment.
Happy with your revision. Don't see any changes, I would think.
I don't either.
I'm pondering. Part of it was due to the public comment earlier. I want to ensure that as a multi-jurisdictional housing authority, that whatever our mission statement is and our goals and our visions do allow us to be ripe and ready and eligible to be flexible a little bit. And allow some opportunities if funding sources become available or something might pivot. And maybe that's just a revamp of our mission statement. Maybe we just actually have one. And then as I'm talking this out loud, and then maybe we actually just need to keep evolving as we continue to learn what our goals and vision are for the RHA.
It's usually the way most places do it. They start with something.
Right.
And as you evolve and your organization grows and develops, it can change that mission. I think it's general enough to what we're trying to do that it can encompass a lot of things.
Keep as much.
Yeah. It doesn't mean it's all inclusive, that we can't ever step outside of the box.
I also think that, just for a little background, we have new voices and faces, which I think is awesome. The RHA almost became extinct. Thank goodness it didn't. It came out of hibernation in 2020. Well, it started in 2020, I think, and then we had a retreat in 2021. So there's this whole backstory here about who are we going to be. And I liked this. Thank you for the work you did on it, because we are figuring out this role between, I mean, we have the workforce development strategy, so we know that we're implementing that. There's actually a lot there. And I think where we've gotten hung up is, do we like own properties, buy properties and manage them like some RHAs do? Or do we go out and build housing like some RHAs do? And I hear where you're going, Eva, that if something comes our way that we want to jump on, that we're comfortable, we can go back and revise this.
Again, that's facilitated.
Wouldn't you say, I was gonna say, wouldn't you say support? Like the word support, I feel like gives that.
Yeah.
I don't, like, I sit here and I'm reading this, like, what does this prevent us from doing?
Right.
And I don't see, like, supporting, we could support financially. That doesn't say we can't, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's not what we're set up to do, but if it came down to it, that word support encompasses a lot.
That's true.
And I love the addition of preservation and rehabilitation so much. I think that that is like a huge focus where we have to make sure that our current workforce housing stays workforce housing, and that has to be a huge focus. I love it. Yes. Yes.
So I like it, and I think, again, if we find that RHAs have this whole list by statute of things we can do, we're doing some of the things on the list, but not all, and as we, continue to work with the Alliance, I hope, and, we can revise it as necessary, but I appreciate the time, and mission statements can be excruciating, so I'm glad you did this between meetings.
Well, you're
Didn't have to
welcome.
revise it. It was-
You're welcome. No, and I agree that it should be a living document that it evolves as we do, so. That, I would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2023-02.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-02.
I have a second.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Okay. Next item is resolution 2023-03 goals and first year initiative. This is a carryover from last month that we had asked Sarah to kind of hone in on a few of the goals and then update the AMI charts. And I think she's done that. I've asked her on the goals that are on the 2-page Housing Alliance fact sheet that has the AMI that the goals be categorized by date. They're a little random. And then I also asked her to number 3, support area housing efforts, January 2023. I think that just has to be an ongoing item. So those are the things I asked her to just tweak a little bit. But any other thoughts, comments, suggestions?
I'll just comment that I think this is wonderful. As a board, we talked about this at our last meeting. I think, again, it's starting to help formalize that the action-oriented things that are occurring in our meetings, holding us accountable to these as a board, and then also wanting to be transparent with the public. And so I think this is an opportunity for us to continue to demonstrate the work that we're doing and by tying those dates and action-oriented items, but not deleting them off the list, but keeping them just stricken is super helpful for us to start to see where we're making that movement. And sort of quarterly, maybe we can have some check-ins on our agenda about these items and kind of see the progress or discuss the progress or where things are at in a status. Would be a suggestion from me for an agenda item. Sort of let's just keep an eye on this, or if it's monthly, or I don't know if we're going to put it in meetings.
I apologize, the goal tracker did not make it into the packet,
Okay.
so I'm placing it up here. But this is basically a Gantt chart of all of these goals and the tasks with what month you fall into. And then color coded by complete, ongoing, or what the projected project timeline is.
Sarah and I specifically talked about this, having a chart and having these things measurable and dates of when they were achieved. So we practice, and the idea was to keep track of it on a monthly basis, so we can see where we are every month relative to these goals.
Yeah, I think it's great. Ditto what you said. I would just point out on the fund, well, a couple things to point out. Housing is getting built. The city is doing amazing work. Rock Creek, Cinnamon Heights, all the stuff. So if people say, I don't see housing getting built on here, it's that support role. And, the municipalities really are doing a lot around that. So I think that's an important thing. On two, under support a countywide or municipal tax, I wonder if we can say study and support. Because we don't know what that would look like yet, and we don't know who would run it, and we don't know if it would be at a municipal level. We don't know yet if this is gonna happen. And then I would say tax and or other sources of revenue. We have some new people on this board. Our attorney put together a chart that I'll get to you, Sarah, about all the different ways that housing could be funded through some kind of fee or tax. So there's like a vendor fee, there's, oh gosh, I don't know the back of my office, but there's a sales tax, there's a property tax, there's a lodger's tax reallocation that the county could do. So there's, I think there's about 7 or 8 different types of funding. So it may be that we try a vendor fee or something, but I think we have to study it first and then we have to figure out. I know Durango's talked about it at your retreat, Eva, about potentially going after a local tax. I don't know if that's gonna happen, not trying to put you on the spot. We will be having a retreat this month, next week actually, to talk about what our revenue picture is and where we would like to be looking, you know, do we need additional revenue? Yes, for our roads, we already know that. So I just want to leave that a little bit more open. And the minute we say to the public tax, then we don't want to create an opposition there without having one.
So you would suggest it read study and support a county or municipal tax
Yeah,
and
study
or
and support
sources.
county tax and or fees.
and or fees
Yeah, you can do impact fees.
for workforce.
I will make sure that chart gets to you, Sarah. So, because we gave it, I think, like even in 2021, long time ago. Yeah, all right. Otherwise, this looks awesome.
Any other thoughts, comments? So I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2023-03 with that change.
So moved.
Second.
Sure.
Second.
I'm gonna second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. That kind of tied in with the fact sheet as well. But you want to review the fact sheet or any questions or issues relative to that?
It just needs the new mission put on it. Yeah, you got that. Okay.
So next item, discussions, updates, the grants matrix, Sarah.
On that fact sheet, we do have the new mission on it. Did you want to remove that first line that does explain how this is a multi-governmental, multi-jurisdictional
Oh, I see.
entity?
Oh, right. I don't know. How do people feel about that?
The fact sheet is located on, the page number is really covered up
Page
there.
40 and 48.
And then there is also included there the prior draft that was presented to the board at the last meeting.
I would suggest that we just include our mission statement and somewhere else put the fact that it's a multi-jurisdictional.
But it may be on the bottom of the sheet instead.
Is that good with everybody? Now on the grants.
Yes, the grant. Okay, on the grants matrix, everybody, obviously the yellow highlighted areas are the ones that have been updated. We made the press release announcement since the last meeting of the 3 entities that are a part of the RHA that received funds. So that is also reflected here in the grant matrix. We have a few outstanding still, the Bayfield. They said they should hear back in the next few weeks, I believe. Does each entity want to give? Okay, all right. And then the second page that's not included in the packet, is starting to track granting opportunities. So I'll make sure that that spreadsheet gets sent out to the directors as well as we start to track additional opportunities.
I'd just like to say congratulations to all the entities for being awarded the grants, and Ignacio knocking it out of the park. Congratulations. That's a big deal. Okay, proposition 123, even Sarah. Favorite topic.
It's my favorite topic among many. Prop 123. I would say right now, no real information has changed. The state has put together a website with technical information. They still have sort of that one email address that's like for technical assistance or questions, email here. But I would say most municipalities, including counties, are just really evaluating what all of this entails and what are the commitments. Because it's very like tiered. First do this and come up with your baseline, but then you have to do this commitment part. And the commitment part is about the 3% annual increase. But there's still this ambiguity about what the 3% part has as far as commitments to affordable or attainable for workforce. What are the AMI categories? There's more definity right now on the baseline. And so I think like many of us, when these bills or legislation are put together, it's a lot to digest. And so what I'm gathering, what my take as a municipality right now is like, just focus on the baseline tier. I'm just trying to like understand that and look at how to do the calculation. Do I agree with what their methodology is? No, I don't. But did they have to start with something? Yes. Some of the opposition that we're sensing, and that some of us that are going through this process to do a baseline, is that they're using US Census data from 2019. And I don't understand why. I don't know what was the rationale behind that. During some of the webinars, those of us that are in housing roles and experts and consultants are all providing feedback, and Sarah's been part of the webinars that I've attended as well, is there's complexities and nuances to that data. And it's not just using what you have for deed restricted inventory that can be rental or ownership. A lot of us, when it first came out, and I think when the communication was going out before the ballot measure went on, the November ballot, people just thought it was deed restriction housing. And now we're finding the baseline is not that. And so there's just a lot of more. It's like every time I go onto that website, I have more questions than I do answers. And that's just being honest. It's complicated. And for the city of Durango, we haven't had a study session because it's not merited yet with council. We're certainly not saying we're in or we're out or we're doing like, I would envision a city council study session when I'm ready to present that and actually can be more informed. And certainly would want to propose that to city council of like, here's the methodology that we come up with, here's the calculations, because they're giving you alternative ways to calculate the baseline. So it wasn't just like, here's the one approach, focus on this, dive in and figure it out. They're saying, but we're flexible and look at this, but you might be able to propose an alternative and we can appeal it. And there's a lot of uncertainty. And, you know, I want to say that we want to be eligible for funding that's available that we can actually realistically commit to. And so I'm just not there yet and feeling that confident that I actually know enough about the baseline and what that 3% for the next 3 years, which is a total of 9%, would commit the city of Durango to.
Sure. So Eva, I can't tell you how welcome it is to hear those words come out of you, because I literally said the same thing yesterday to my board, that I know that the Board of County Commissioners wants a work session on this topic. And I said to them yesterday, I'm not ready. I'm not an expert in housing. So to hear an expert in housing say that you've been studying it this closely and you're still not ready, that's very comforting to me, because we're in the same exact boat. My question, if you know, is the last time I looked at the website, it looked like the first real decision point was in November.
That
Like,
is still active.
opt-in, okay, that's still, so I still feel like we have some time to try and
Yeah.
figure this out. Okay, all right.
I wonder if, I don't want to commit anyone to anything. If there's an opportunity to have a joint
I would-
discussion
love
about
that.
that with the county and the city. Only because I think we could bring in with some technical assistance with the grant. We could actually get a representative from the state to talk about this with us. I feel like it's really needed right now. And proactively, I think we can navigate through Sarah and our connections at the state to bring it to this region. We need to understand better the baselines because the county's baseline for unincorporated is significantly different than Bayfield or the city. And I would welcome even Katie if there's an opportunity for us to do this and for Ignacio. I would rather us be informed and directly get that from the source than me as a staff person providing that to all of us involved. Because what I might read or interpret, an attorney might read or interpret a little differently. And I think we could definitely bring some of that legal component between maybe the city. I think we'll have somebody on board, maybe May. I think this is our next course of action with the city attorney, but I would love to have some more legal take in that same meeting so that again, it's a well-informed dialogue and discussion. And I think it still gives us opportunity if we do this like May or June. Then we still have July, August to continue to work through those flexible components of the baseline. They've thrown out some information of like, well, there might be some funding available earlier. And trying to entice municipalities to like jump quicker to do your baseline. But I also want to welcome that they've said November 1st. That's a target. Obviously, we need to take action in October due to all of our different meeting dates, depending on, and so I want to have a more proactive approach for our community and for La Plata. And we can be more informed, and then maybe August and September, we bring it here into the RHA as more like who's doing what and have that more well-rounded action discussion about it, because I'm still unclear about impacts if a project's an unincorporated, but the city wants to contribute city water. I'm like kind of questioning some of that aspect. And then we wouldn't be eligible because you guys didn't opt in.
Right.
Like there's just some weird nuances that I'm like, there's going to be a project in 5 years. I'm being optimistic. That's going to come up. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, if the county didn't opt in, I mean, I know you guys wouldn't mean intention to jeopardize something, but if you didn't know, you wouldn't know.
Yeah, that's exactly our concern.
Okay.
So yeah, I would love to.
Coordinate on that and we can go through Jose and we can kind of, okay.
So I'm curious because I'm not super familiar. I haven't dove into Prop 123 very much. That what's the difference between not including Bayfield and Ignacio in your explanation? I didn't understand that piece.
Oh, it's just far as like like if we had a meeting, we had the conversations or just.
Right, yeah, because you were just saying the city and. the
Oh, and
county.
then I think I did open that more up to a
Okay, I just thought
conversation.
it was something like, there's something with that
Yeah.
prop that doesn't allow us to
No, Prop
participate or be.
Prop
part of the
123 wasn't based on population size. Senate Bill 23-213 is a different conversation.
Right.
But Prop 123 right now is just at the state level, it would be a certain amount of funding. And then it's, if you opt in as a municipality or a county, you can be eligible possibly to write grants to receive funding. So it's not a guaranteed funding source. I think that's another complexity to this, that all of the legwork and the heavy lifting and the code changes that come with the commitment, with the fast tracking and the other components. It's like one thing to just do the baseline and do that by November 1st. And then there's other commitments that we might have to meet milestones on. And the baseline's the first part.
So last month I went to a CAST legislative conference and they had a representative from DOLA and someone specifically for Prop 123 presenting to all of us there. And the woman who's presenting on Prop 123 said that the first round is coming out in March and they have, is that true or no?
They have put on the website that there's an opportunity possibly to do your baseline in May.
And she said, so she said that
And get
they're-
it approved by DOLA to maybe be eligible for funding sooner this year. So that's to the point of putting pressure on communities.
to do it.
To do
Because she
the
says the
baseline.
first round comes out in March, second round will be out April or May. Have to opt in, and then, but she did say you can choose a neighboring city for your baseline number.
What?
Yeah, like that's what like I'm writing these notes, and of course I am like, Eva's on all these calls, so I don't even know why I'm writing these notes. It probably doesn't matter. And then I'm listening to you talk and I'm like, wait, I feel like I'm like going back. Like, I feel like she said something totally different.
She did. Yeah, that is an actual thing. They're saying that you can use a neighboring city to.
Yeah,
But they're saying you can use a neighboring city for the AMI calculation. Right. It wasn't for the baseline.
So they're.
Because if it was the baseline, then I would opt into Bayfield or.
Right, I'm like-
Yeah, yeah. no, you-
I'm not
you
doing
might do
that.
Anyway.
And I use their
It's
EMI to establish your
it's-
baseline.
But there's complexities to doing that, and the impacts it might have actually on housing that you produce. And I got the impression the reason that was written in the bill is because there's communities or counties that haven't done needs assessments or analysis. And so there wasn't enough data. And so they kind of put that in the bill as like, well, if you're in, and I don't know enough about other communities to know, like, if you opted into this county or this city, then you can tie into their AMI or their analysis. I feel like that was the intent. But I'm still learning through the Prop 123 information, but there is some opportunity to do baseline sooner than November 1st.
Eva, aren't you using your housing assessment to help establish the baseline for Durango though too?
Yes.
Eva, what other than deed restricted counts? What are the other things you're
Yeah,
talking about?
so the city of Durango right now is one of our performance metrics for affordability and economic opportunity. It's called a housing affordability or opportunity index. The housing affordability index is more utilized. We right now are using housing opportunity index, which is more on an annual basis with a mortgage interest rate. But what it means is quarterly, you can look at what your sales have occurred on real estate. And then we're using an on-call appraiser service that we've actually created the formula to do our housing opportunity index. So they actually run what things have been selling for and what the current interest rate is. And so it's helpful doing this as a quarterly snapshot because then I can really start to see how the interest has been affecting the open market. But it shows basically if you make an median income, which for a single person is like $62,000 a year, just hypothetically here, and you try to buy a house right now in the snapshot market, could you afford it with that income earner? Or is it too high? So it tells you how bad your conditions are.
Right.
But it informs you if that rate changes, where you're making improvements, ideally.
But that doesn't count as the baseline. I'm saying, what is the state?
Well, the reason I'm bringing this up is because the state wants to use something like Housing Opportunity Index, using the census data from 2019. And instead of only using deed restricted inventory, they want to say in 2019, a house in Durango was at this, and the median income was this, and they could still afford to buy housing. So they're like using two things to inflate what the baseline is. And those of us that were in housing anticipated and was ready. I was like going through all of our inventory and making sure it was accurate for rental and ownership with the deed restriction or a rental restriction. And so we were all blown away by Prop 123 that says now we're actually going to use this other methodology from census data in 2019. Well, 2019 was pre-pandemic. And so when we were at the webinar, I asked that question. I thought, why are we using this information when all of the communities are facing such an exasperated scenario that's more accurate than that? And I don't recall them actually being able to articulate a real true, clear response to my question. So I also wondered what would happen if no one opted in. I hate to say that, but I just, I kind of wondered what would happen if they started seeing real pockets of the state not opting in because of the pressures of the fast track. I don't think you'll see people, I think most of us will try and do the baseline, at least I would. Because that's not a commitment yet.
Yeah, it's the land use piece.
Yeah, it's the
That's
land
us
use
most
piece
concerned.
that's throwing.
And,
everybody
and the
over.
3%, because where in the unincorporated county, where is La Plata County gonna show 3% annual growth? We're not, it's gonna be in the municipalities. So those are the two things that have.
That's what I'm
concerned,
concerned.
You know,
Yeah. So the baseline, I think we all can probably, head down a path that we'd like to go through that exercise and probably at some point submit something. Probably it's going to be more of the, what's the commitment for that 3%? And then what's the commitment for the land use component?
I'm getting told in meetings where there's a DOH representative or a CHAPA representative to ignore the 3%, that it won't be enforceable by.
That's what they said in this meeting. They're like, we're gonna do everything in our power to help you get to your 3%. Basically, like, the reason we're not, like, we're giving you all these options is so you can get to your 3%.
Because then there won't be enough funding to apply for the grant funding if there weren't maybe on that.
Yeah.
component. We all know this. I mean, the grants are already competitive as it is.
So anyway, I don't know.
Huh.
That's what.
Well, this is why we're all sharing. And yeah, I had planned on doing a deeper dive into methodology and seeing which one is more impactful with an actual unit count. I think we're gonna have to go through that exercise. That the bill is allowing like 1 or 2 or 3 methodologies. I think the city of Durango, we're gonna go through each rubric and actually see, is it 1,700 units? Is it 986? Is it, 600? And start to understand, because that's what they want from you, is they want a definitive, like, which one do you prefer and why, and kind of defending it. And so I thought interesting, but also confusing.
Well, I think we're gonna have to continue moving on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Yes.
this is a really important topic, and I would actually lean on you and Sarah to help keep the municipalities informed and keep people informed between these meetings as to changes and things that pop up, new revelations, just so, this isn't a once a month learning experience, that it can be a little real time. So thank you for that information. It's interesting. I'll leave it at that. Next item is DOH La Plata County Housing Tour. Sarah.
Yes, DOH representatives Shirley Diaz and Andrew Ashley are going to be coming through all of Region 9, May 10th and 11th. Going to be visiting with all of the municipalities within that area space. So it's going to be kind of a whirlwind tour, but Durango is scheduled to be May 10th from 3 to 4. So I've reserved the Chamber of Commerce conference room space for them to be there. And this is an opportunity for all housing leaders to come and visit with them about projects that they are working on with the DOH to understand what funding mechanisms are available or to discuss their projects. But I don't even think we're going to have real time to take them to any of the projects that they are funding even, but they're going to be in town. So I will be sharing all of that with you.
Is that going to be specific to Durango, or is it for all of La Plata County and all the jurisdictions?
There's going to be 2 visits in La Plata County. One is in Ignacio to visit. They are actually going to visit the Rock Creek project and visit with Mark and the tribe.
Okay.
So they will, on the 10th, they will be having lunch at the casino. So there's that opportunity. And then in the city of Durango, they'll be there from 3 to 4. So they would love to meet and see all of the RHA directors. They are very excited that the RHA is up and running again.
Do we have to post for that?
If we're all good.
We have a greater than
I
a
think so,
majority
if
we have
it's
to
a
post
quorum.
for that visit.
Yeah, how much we have to post.
We're gonna have a majority of the RHA attending.
Oh,
Actually, a public meeting. Okay, just note that for the 10th.
Do we need a larger space than the Chamber of Commerce, Sarah? Are you thinking the conference room?
Yeah, I'm getting the conference room.
I can see if this is available.
I would see if this is available to this. Yeah, I'm just thinking that's not big enough. Okay, so, okay. Smart hands. There's one.
Director Garcia has his hand up.
Mark? Do you have a comment?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, sir. This is news to me, so I'm glad they're coming down and we'll be happy to facilitate a site visit. And if there's interest, we can try to put something together for the full RHA here in Ignacio. So maybe I can work with Sarah on that and see what the interest might be. But I have not been in touch with Andrew on this, so that's exciting. But you're the first to tell me about it. So
this is by Region 9. Shack Powers is actually leading this tour. So I mean, they're going into Silverton, they're going all around. So I think there's definitely been emails with you on it in terms of like what the proposed itinerary is. But I know that you weren't able to attend the last meeting because you were out of town, I believe. But that's who's leading this whirlwind tour.
okay, I'll visit with Shaq on that and see what all is entailed there and report out to you all once I have more details on the visit.
If we're gonna have a lunch, maybe we can have Bayfield come over to Ignacio that day, and that'll keep us from having to post anything.
Yeah. That'd be good. Okay, thank you.
Will we still need a bigger space then? I wasn't aware of this. Yeah. And I think I'm just gonna comment as my staff role, not as a board member. Region 9 has been having those weekly Friday meetings. And there was never a doodle poll when this initially started with Shaq's role. And I have a conflict on Fridays. So I've never been able to go. I feel bad that the city of Durango is not at them because I can't be there. And Region 9, there's so many people on the call and I never see agendas. So I don't know if it's an open forum with like 48 people on a phone call with Zoom every week. But to not know about something like this and to have actual dates now with a time and feel uninformed is frustrating for me right now. And so I can reach out to Shaq, not say I'm frustrated, but I will let him know I want to be informed. Because I thought weekly Friday meetings seemed excessive to me with that many people. But maybe you've been going.
Yeah, I've been going. So I've been at the meetings and she's been at a couple of them now.
She really has.
And so we've been able to ask Prop 1, 2, 3 questions of her as well.
Yeah.
So they kind of asked, since I'm the staff support for RHA, that I lead the effort for La Plata County for their tour. But there was not a lot of flexibility. I didn't get to pick a date. I didn't get to pick, like, the times were all based on, I mean, it's 2 days and they're going to 15 locations. I mean, it's 1 hour here, 1 hour here. That's why we can't even sure Andrew to a project probably.
Well, I guess before we relocate it on the 10th, I just need a little more insight between you and Shaq on what is the expectation and who should be at that meeting.
That has been conveyed. So it is RHA. It is to let any planners know about it. Housing, I'm supposed to let Homes Fund know about it and to let.
And then Elizabeth.
And so
that conference room isn't big enough then.
Yeah.
And then are we putting an agenda together to utilize that hour efficiently, or they just want to shop?
We can do that. We can put together an agenda.
I would suggest that we put together the agenda and we structure.
Sarah, get with me about a larger conference room. The county has a couple of spaces that might work. I'll have to look at the date and the time to decomplete, but we might be able to offer potentially even the boardroom if it's available or.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you for keeping us informed. And I'll reach out to Shaq. I didn't know if there were like meeting minutes from those meetings every Friday.
There are not. I wish there were.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, I thought it would be more beneficial if he like broke up the Region 9 and had.
If the board is in agreement, I would suggest that the RHA send a note to Region 9 saying, please, please include, besides Sarah, the folks that are really tied to housing in Plata County.
Yeah.
And please structure the meeting so it has minutes so we can understand what's going on. We feel like we're, somewhat in the dark, and I'm not criticizing you, Sarah, at all. I'm just saying there's things coming out of this discussion that are revelation to almost everybody at the table. And if we're not in the loop, then we're not in the loop. That's not good.
And we also look like we're siloing ourselves by not being in attendance, and that's not the intent. And so my absence may look frowned upon because I can't be there.
A lot
And
of
I don't
counties,
want that.
a lot of counties not there either.
Okay. So the staffing challenges, yeah, I know, okay. So more as a proactive, we know these are occurring. Is there an opportunity for us to be more engaged, informed? Can we have meeting minutes?
Better.
Yeah. I just,
You're using the.
Do you want a letter to come from the RHA?
an email's fine.
Just an email?
Just an email.
Let's start with that.
But, and I would like it to go to Laura and Shaq.
Yeah, Laura needs me.
Agreed.
Okay, let's move on. Katie, your other favorite topic.
Yeah, so Senate Bill 23-213, it's a land use, and this is from Barbara McLaughlin, our representative here in Southwest Colorado. Land use would address the growing challenges related to housing in the state of Colorado. This bill would attempt to address some of the challenges by, she talks about legalizing the ability to build more affordable housing. They're basically removing the option for municipalities and not Bayfield and Nashua at this time, but it could be at some point. Cities like Durango and Cortez would be eligible under Senate Bill 23-213. But the legalizing the ability to build more affordable housing, typically what this bill really allows is to remove the single family zoning so they can build multifamily ADUs in areas, and it would be the state would have control over those multifamily and where they go. DOLA, from our understanding, would be managing this process. So in other words, as far as local government, the ability to manage multifamily housing would be a real challenge. For currently right now, they're considering that the state would waive plant investment fees for like water and sewer. And that would be devastating, if Bayfield was ever eligible under that. And also parking. So they want to move these multifamily close to transit. But the thing is that they would have the ability to, that parking would not be necessary. And I think that would be a real challenge because we have our residents that live here that would be impacted by, where are they going to park? So it really takes our control away, locally takes the citizens' control away because they'd have to go to the state and voice their concern about a development, not necessarily to your city council or the board of trustees.
Unknown person instead of the people who
Unknown person.
Yeah.
live in your community.
So her last bullet point is constructing more homes and creating jobs by eliminating arbitrary laws that prevent property owners from building the housing units local communities need. Yes, we know we need affordable housing. But we don't need developers basically building housing, and it could be at market rate or whatever they decide that housing to be. Cleve Simpson did respond. He is in opposition. He's our senator in this area. He is in opposition to this legislature. I have not heard from Barbara specifically. I did send information out to the sponsors of the bill. We do have some real concerns about taking local control away from municipalities on housing.
I'm happy to chime in.
We opposed it. After you, I can go to some of our reasons that are the same, and then I'll expand on a couple.
I also listened in and logged into the Senate testimony on Thursday. I stayed on for over 6 hours while also multitasking and trying to do my work. It was well attended. It went on past 6 p.m. I emailed the CML director and said, I've got to pop off. I need to get home to my kids, but they definitely stayed on. There were many, many, many folks that testified at that hearing. Again, it was testimony only. 4 of the 5 city councilors did sign an opposition letter very quickly. And so CML did present that to the General Assembly, as well as the resolution by the shared that, and then Town of Ignacio's letter I did just get. So I've drafted a follow-up letter. I did talk to our city attorney this morning. I can craft it so that individual council members can sign it and submit it to our representatives at this point, and that's my recommendation. So you'll be seeing that come through. Say, yeah.
Not really.
We had a really good discussion. We've been studying this, and our lobbying organization, CCI, took a 75% opposed position. And then our other organization that tends to be, for lack of a better word, more progressive and more housing oriented, renewable energy, you know, kind of some of those issues, is in an amend position only because they feel like they want to stay in there and try to change some things. But we took a opposed position yesterday, and we're going to ratify it in a letter next week, the 25th. And you know, the goals are good: affordable housing, reduce emissions, increase transit. But we are so concerned that this is too much too quickly. And I don't recall the governors ever coming down here asking us what we thought. Yeah. So where was the listening session? Where was being able to go to Bayfield, Durango, Ignacio and say, we want to do this big giant bill. What do you think? What are you already doing? What isn't working for you? That never happened. The first thing I heard about it was this summer, like jump on a CCI call with stakeholders. And I'm like, wait, what is this? And, you know, we were all kind of following it. So I think it needs a lot of work. And there's also no guarantee at any AMIs. It just says you all aren't doing enough density. And so let's kind of put this layer, and we're tremendously concerned. Look, DOLA, we have a good relationship with DOLA, right? But I'm really concerned as to whether they would be able to administer this. I feel like they're really scrambling with the programs that have been kicked off now. How are they going to go into Bayfield and say, if you are doing what you're supposed to be doing?
It takes months to get anything from CETA.
Yeah,
I don't know. Another state agency.
Yeah.
Months to just
Walk
sign.
down the seat
to
off
sign
regional office right
documents.
here.
Just sign a document.
Right. So anyway, we are definitely, even though more of the housing, obviously the housing is going more in the municipalities, which is good, but we're just really concerned about it. And the local control is sacred, right? As you said, where can the public go weigh in if somebody from Denver is assessing density is in land use? So.
Well, and that was a big part of Senator Moreno, who has sponsored the bill. When he introduced this to the Senate floor, he got asked and got pressed quite a few questions about, do you have an analysis of how much housing this will create? He said, no. So we don't actually have unit counts because we haven't done that analysis in every municipality to say if you added triplexes, duplexes, ADUs. No one really knew, and the intent, I think, behind the bill is well merited. It's to increase the amount of housing with the concept that if you get more, we get through some of that ideally it would reduce the cost of rental housing and ownership. That's the intent.
Good.
But there was also opposition and not an understanding about Article 20 in the state constitution that allows for home rule authority, and that this is trumping that. And he also said, well, this will get, we the courts could answer that question. That was him testifying. And so we all thought, well, this is going to get held up in court for years then, and would not produce any additional housing that you hope for housing more in Colorado. in particular. And of course, it would impact our EDU program. It actually conflicts with our program in the city. It conflicts with our inclusionary zoning. It conflicts with our parking.
Wow.
So the letter actually has the pros and cons, and it calls for amendments before a vote can occur. So I hope that city council will welcome that, and that was asked of me to produce, so.
For this topic.
I mean, I would ask, does the RHA want to take a position? This is kind of the first one that's come along of, do we want to take a position? Because we can.
I would take that back to well.
But we all for
if you've
or
already-
against?
Yeah, if you've already jumped in.
So for clarity, we did not get it on the agenda for the Ignatia trustees. So as mayor, I took a position and not representative of the trustees, but as mayor.
That was going to be at 2 because our changeover's happening.
Well, what I would
So we'll talk
suggest
about it in the next meeting.
is in the next month, yeah, go back to your
Okay.
respective boards and get something of clarity. And if that's the case, then RHA can take a position.
I would say like more of the better. Yeah, so taking a
Sure.
CML, like every, entity to.
I think we all agree the intent is there, it's right, but the execution is always challenging. And there are so many intricacies in land use and land use policy that having DOLA try to play with this is just a disaster. Katie, I get it on your fee structure, how are you gonna pay for water sewer infrastructure? That's ridiculous.
It actually says in the bill, if the developer says it's infeasible, the fees have to be offset. I kid you not.
Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous.
That's, I mean,
So
it says they don't have
that's
to
not
pay.
reality.
So,
Yeah.
I mean. And the infrastructure can it handle that capacity? No
Right.
one's tested anyone's infrastructure.
And they're coming from Denver trying to tell us whether or not our infrastructure. can
Where's our
handle
water
that
gonna go?
subdivision. Yeah, I mean.
Well, a good example would be Three Springs, is going to South Durango Sanitation District. So you triple the density in Three Springs and don't have the fee structure. South Durango can't treat the sewage.
And I'm sure they're thinking of it like
Right.
a city.
This is not an easy
City issue.
issue. And it's, land development is tough enough. Put it that way. So, okay, this next item I'll skip. In the member policy or member umbrella policy updates, it was called policy updates, and I wanted to clarify. This is the idea of what can we consolidate among all the members of land use policy to make things a little bit more predictable in the process. We've talked about that, to help move projects along. This is a placeholder for right now, so that's all it is. I just wanted to clarify that. Member updates, LaPlata County.
And I think we have pretty much a hard stop at 4, so just FYI. Chuck, I'll turn it over to you and then I'll do whatever. I think it's in your packet about West Side.
Right, it's in the grant matrix, it's been updated, we were awarded, I think the ask was 3 million, it was awarded at 800,000. So there was that. We talked about 1, 2, 3, that was the only other thing I was gonna talk about, and then the position on the land use bill. So I don't have anything else for the group.
I just would note that this week we did a forum. This I think really falls in the category of retaining housing. We know we have a very difficult situation with Lightner Creek. If anybody has questions, you can email me because I could take the whole rest of the time talking about it. We do not have jurisdiction. DOLA has jurisdiction over mobile homes under the Mobile Home Park Act, and CDPHE has jurisdiction over their water system. So we did a forum. We figured, where is our lane where we might be able to try to at least help with something? So we did a forum this week with a group called 9 to 5 that helps organize people in trailer parks, mobile home parks. We had Housing Solutions there. Thank you, Elizabeth, for being there. And then we had Colorado Legal Services. So if anybody wants it, once we get the forum live, the Zoom link, we'll give it to you. We had 4 residents, but then we learned from the 9 to 5 people, that's pretty common, that they're like picking up their kids and they don't know who we are. And, we did offer translation, but it's a situation we've had many calls with. We're trying to work as much as we can, and the state, is taking them to court. So that's that. But it's 35, I've seen 2 numbers, 35 or 40 homes. So.
Hayfield.
So I'm just gonna hit something other than housing. The board is considering a stormwater ordinance to start managing stormwater. So you talked about developers coming in and managing parking lots or whatever else they're gonna do. That's another situation that we're like to get a handle on. I don't know. I think it's to that.
I'd love to talk to you about that offline. Okay, City of Durango.
I'll try and be brief. We are putting on the city council agenda for next Tuesday, a new partnership agreement with Housing Solutions of the Southwest. Really excited to expand our partnership with Elizabeth and her team. This will be for rental restriction administration of projects. We also have several other projects that will be going before Planning Commission and City Council that are more public-private partnerships that have been developed, where we are getting commitment for 16% for affordable housing. So really proud, excited to be bringing those before Planning Commission and City Council. That's additional units to be added to our inventory. Those are also mixes of either rental or ownership. So we're getting a variety of spectrum of housing to address the various housing needs for our community. Twin Buttes affordable compliancy is sort of starting to move forward. We've had an RFP out on the Animas High School site. As many of you know, they've relocated over to the Fort Lewis College campus. And so we are expecting proposals to be submitted by the close of the RFP at the end of April. So that'll be really exciting for another project in the mix. And I think that's all I have to cover.
Member at large, the only item I'll bring up is there's a potential that you'll be asked between now and the next meeting, the letter of support for project in Bayfield for 66 townhome units. Brad Blake is a representative, and I asked him to provide me some information. He provided some information. Sarah and Katie are much more familiar with the project than the rest of us. I need to go back to Brad and say, you need to provide a lot more for the board to chew on here. It was a very, very basic presentation that he gave us. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that we may be looking for a vote or a endorsement between now and the next meeting of the project, and be sure to let you know.
Aren't those going to be deed restricted? Did he say they're going to be deed
Yes,
restricted?
the
Yeah.
intent is they
Yeah.
be restricted.
Sega. Sega, yeah.
And then town.
Mark, you got anything?
Yeah, just a quick one. I wanted to mention on our Rock Creek project, which has a lot of momentum, as we talked about earlier. It's exciting to see the state want to visit that project. But we have been working with the Southern Indian tribe, who has expressed interest on building on 5 of the 5 plexes that we have within the project. They submitted a congressionally direct spending request for 7.3 million to build those. So hopefully they will be funded and it'll help anchor our project. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. Hopefully that's a project that we can work on jointly with the tribe on Rock Creek. Thank you.
Everybody hear that?
Nope.
So
Good
the
understanding.
tribe has actually put
Every fifth word.
a request for congressionally directed spending for just under 7.5 million, that they would build the 5 plexes on this Rock Creek property. And so that's a great collaboration between the town of Ignacio and the tribe. We're looking forward to seeing the outcome of that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Sorry, Mark, the audio is a little bit tough in here for you. That's it.
And then just one other note. I know that there's still interest in touring the Gage project, and so I'm going to ask Sarah, maybe both of us reach out to Mike Fouts, figure something out, maybe before the next meeting, or like the hour before, or 2 hours before the next meeting, or the following meeting. Try to meet out on site and check that out. It's still on the radar screen, but now I went by it today, and they are digging the foundations for building C. And they've got all the units sitting in the yard across the street from it. So you can see some of the finished product, interiors, and then see how they put stuff together. The Lego project, as I call it.
Great. And Elizabeth, I'll follow up with that. So Elizabeth and I, part of the urgency with the contract that we're executing for the partnership with City Council approval is to actually, that'll be the first project that'll be increasing the rental restriction inventory for the 80% to 120% AMI bucket. for 14 units. So Elizabeth and I will be touring that with the developer, specifically because we're going to be leasing up those 14 of the 89 units in buildings A and B.
Great.
So we may have a window of time to get in there before you
Thank
guys
you, Katie.
tour.
And anything else? This meeting's adjourned.
Great, thank you, everybody.
4 p.m.
We'll see you. They talk.
We have the river criteria.
Yes.
I just curious.
Yeah, I'll send you with.
I'm so stopped up. I can.
No, that's okay. I was trying to think.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for.
I'm gonna talk to Elizabeth right now.
So,
Very well might.
try to
And I didn't have,
Upstairs
I
before
didn't have
my-
time to figure it out. Saw you looking. Yeah, I know. So I'm gonna try to figure out and see what it is. Worst case scenario, I just bring some extra speakers next to me and just put them around the board office. Yeah, so.
You want to do my counselors?
I can read that. There's a lot of different. The things from
Okay. Great, thanks.
like, counted, trying to make it downstairs.
Oh, nice.
Do you need help up here?
No, I think I got the rest. For sure.
Yes.
Ugh.
Which is a money saver.
Okay.
They-
Thanks, JJ. Good to do. Sign anything?
So they're finding.
It's actually. Yes.